Welcome to Positive Talk Daily. My name is Mr. Positive. Today on Positive Talk Daily, should you upgrade to a new iPhone? Now, we're going to talk about 5 things that an older iPhone can still do just fine compared to the newer iPhones like the 16 series going into the 17 series of iPhones. Now, if you're coming from an older iPhone, it depends on the year, really. If you're coming all the way from, say, an iPhone SE 3rd generation or iPhone SE 2nd generation, all the way up to the current gen iPhones, most of these phones can do everything pretty much the same to some degree and to some weaknesses. We're going to go over the top 5 things that most iPhones can do in 2025. And the reasons why we say avoid upgrading every year or upgrading, period, to a new iPhone. No matter what we do as consumers, Apple knows how to advertise their phones. If it's their Pro Series phones, if it's their standard iPhone series, all the way down to their basic iPhone SE models. All these phones are pretty much the same thing. And Apple tries to brainwash their fan base into trying to upgrade every year to 2 years, but you really don't need to. And here's why. Most iPhones in 2025 do the same thing, okay? iPhones all the way down to as low as the iPhone XS Max and XR are still getting the latest updates to iOS 18. So if you're coming from an older iPhone and you're thinking, well, man, that experience is going to be much quicker than it will be on my older iPhone, you would be wrong. Most of the new software coming out from Apple is working really well on older hardware. We've seen the likes of the XS Max work really quick. Applications like Facebook, standard applications. I mean, most people that are buying iPhones are just using standard applications like Facebook, Instagram, and other social media apps like TikTok. So if you're buying an iPhone thinking you're going to get a huge performance gap between the older iPhones and the newer iPhones, if you're just using generic applications, your standard applications, no. You may see a few milliseconds difference, maybe a few seconds difference. That's about it. That's not a big deal in everyday usage. Now, where you may see the increase is more in the intensive gaming, games that are using higher end graphics, larger, storage options, that sort of thing. The problem with Apple is they do this on purpose by potentially having storage options like having micro SD card storage. Because if Apple released an iPhone with actual storage options, upgrading to an iPhone would be useless. This is why Apple does this. This works in their favor by not adding expandable storage. They can do that. They can make you go out buy a new iPhone every 2 or 3 years. The thing is, the gap between all the iPhones are small. The iPhone, going from iPhone XS Max to iPhone 11 was about a 20% gap. Going from iPhone 11 to iPhone 12 was about maybe 10 to 15% gap. Going from iPhone 12 to 13 was about a 10 to 15% gap. Going from iPhone 13 to 14 was only a 5% gap because it's the same chipset with just an additional amount of RAM. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're going to the Pro Series, which gave you Dynamic Island on iPhone 14 Pro. And if you moved up to the 15, you did see about a 30% increase from the A15 Bionic chip in the 13 and 14 up. So again, unless you go up to the Pro models, even to the Pro models, the only difference is the cameras. You're maybe getting slightly better camera performance because they're giving you 3 cameras versus 2. And then, depending on what kind of phone you purchase. The reason you're better off buying an older used iPhone or buying one refurbished on Amazon Renewed is you're going to get a case. Not a case. You're going to get an actual plug with your phone. You're actually going to get the charger in the box, okay? Something that Apple's not doing anymore. You may get a generic, but at least you're going to get a plug in the box. Older iPhone models came with the charger in the box, the wire. You still get the wire these days, but you used to get headphones. You'll actually get headphones if you purchase, say, an iPhone 11, if you purchase an iPhone 12. When they got to the 13, that's when they started doing away with the charging brick and the headphones. Apple has tried to, get rid of they've been trying to go down this eco-friendly climate change, ladder to try to remove paper from, from the environment and all this environmentally friendly garbage that California is trying to spread as well. All these companies think that it's helping the, the environment, which is not true. It's just a big scam. The point is, it's not going to hurt Apple by throwing in a charging brick. So going with an older iPhone makes more sense, because if you're someone who doesn't really use heavy intensive apps, most people buying an iPhone are not buying it to, necessarily play the latest games. I mean, some people do game on their iPhone, especially teenagers. But most people are buying the phones for the cameras. They're buying it because it's easy software to use. And that's why Apple does so well. It's in their advertising. Problem is, Apple is taking a step back by removing the plug-in. You have to pretty much buy a $1,000 iPad to get a charger anymore, and they just give you this, this cable with it, and that's it. And in a way, Apple is ripping people off. Not just Apple, Google. Same thing goes with, HTC and Sony, removing that. Even Motorola nowadays is removing the plug in the box. I mean, most people who own a phone, yes. The problem is, if you buy an iPhone 16 Pro Max or even the 15 Pro Max, you're supposed to be getting a 25-watt charger in the box. They don't even give you that. They make you go out, buy another accessory that is not needed. We're already paying $1,000 for the charger. You're already paying $1,000, for the phone. Why should you spend another $25 to $30 just to buy the accessory that should come with the phone to begin with? If the phone is supposed to have 25-watt or 30-watt fast charging, it should come with the actual charger, not some junk generic charger, which can break the phone. And if it's not running like it's supposed to, they want everybody to use, use wireless charging brick, use like a wireless charger or MagSafe, which is fine. Now, here's the difference. A lot of things that you're going to get with Apple with older devices, you can still use the same software. The A18, A18 software, or Apple's iOS 18 is pretty much on all those older phones, all the way down to the iPhone XS Max. Now, you may be looking to upgrade if you want to continue with iOS 19 and all that stuff going into the end of this year. But if you're coming from one of those older phones, it's really not worth an upgrade just yet. iPhone 11 still has solid cameras, still has the latest software, 1 more year of software updates coming, 2 more years of security updates. And if you're coming from an older iPhone, you're not going to see a huge difference in everyday apps, like I said at the beginning of this video. If it's loading Facebook, if it's loading Instagram, camera application, the difference is small. So upgrading is sort of useless. Especially your older phones, all you really need to do is head down to the Apple store, purchase a new battery. It may cost you 30, 40, 50 bucks, but you have another 2 years with the same phone you've had. Maybe you have photos you don't want to delete. Maybe you use that phone and you enjoy using that phone. Stick to your older phone. There's really no reason to upgrade to an iPhone 16 Pro Max because, performance is a little bit faster when it comes to gaming and open certain applications, so it may be a little snappier. If you're coming from, say, an iPhone 14 Pro Max or even the 13 Pro Max, there's absolutely no reason to upgrade to a 16 Pro Max. You're still getting 120 hertz motion plus on the 13, 14, same thing, 15, no sense. You wait until the iPhone 17. You will see a drastic change in the design of the cameras, design of the phone itself. It'll be also slimmed down a little bit. So wasting your money, going out, say, hey, I got to have the latest and greatest. Unless you're a tech, someone who's into tech stuff, it's not really worth anything. I mean, same thing if you're coming from an iPhone 13 and you want to upgrade to the 16 model. Yes, you're getting a different design. Yes, you're getting a slightly snappier processor. But if you have a chance to buy an iPhone 13 brand new, so say through Boost Mobile, and it's $49 to activate it, go to the 13. 13 is still a very solid phone. That A15 Bionic chip is still fast at 3.8 gigahertz. So really aren't missing out on anything spectacular. Getting the same type of cameras. You're getting maybe a 12 megapixel, but who cares? The 48 megapixel is still shooting in 12 megapixel. You have to change the settings to use the 48 megapixel sensor on the newer iPhones. So it really doesn't matter. Some things you may see on newer phones now, we're going to go over that. Charging speeds may be a lot faster thanks to the newer iPhones. That could be a reason why you might want to upgrade. Coming from an older phone, you're dealing with an older battery. So if you're buying used, you may have to watch out for an older battery or something like that. So just be aware of that. You also may have to look at, software updates. Say, especially if you're coming from an iPhone 11, it's got one more year. But if you're still on it for one more year, stick to it. That's why I said wait till Apple's iPhone 17 comes out. Makes more sense to do so. If you're upgrading, it could be due to you want to upgrade to software. Software reasons, could be a region, security reasons. Security updates are very important on an iPhone and all phones in general. So I can see upgrading because you want security to last you 7 to 10 years. It could be other things like the cameras. The cameras have improved quite a bit from older iPhone models to current day models. So it makes sense to upgrade in those areas. If you're a budget user, you're not going to be going to iPhone 17 anytime soon, or even iPhone 16. Budget consumers are sticking with the one they have. They're going to walk into a Walmart. These are the type of consumers we're we're aiming at. If you're a budget consumer, you don't give two shits about a 48 megapixel sensor. Yes, it's nice, but we don't care about that. All we care about is a phone that gets the job done and does everything okay, or just gets the job done. For Mr. Positive Live, I'm Mr. Positive. Stick to your older tech, because older tech, like the older iPhones, can still do the same stuff that the newer iPhones can do.